Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining the third installment of the Chat with the Chairwoman series. We're going to get started very, very shortly. Please take an opportunity to share this page with your network. Go ahead and start tagging folks. I need you guys to like or love or laugh emoji face this recording so we can share it far and wide and get folks engaged with this incredible conversation. So please go ahead and share this Facebook Live, tag folks, like it, love it. Let's get some engagement on this post and we'll get started in just a few minutes. Okay, I need a few more folks. I need you to like this video. I need you to share it. I need you to tag folks. Let's get some more engagement and we'll get started very, very shortly. Let us know where you're joining from. Go ahead and drop in the chat box. Tell us where you're joining from. There will be opportunities for you to potentially ask some questions as you're listening to our speakers. Just think about that, drop in the chat box and just talk to each other, engage one another. Let's get some engagement going. Please like, love this post, share it far and wide. Hi, Chantel. Awesome, guys. So it's 7:03. I want to honor everybody's time. I'm so excited for this incredible, this esteemed, this amazing, just, incredible panel of folks from Milwaukee and nationally who are going to be talking about some really awesome stuff that they're doing in their communities. But I want to start by just framing up the chat for you. Again, welcome to the third Chat with the Chairwoman. I'm Marcelia Nicholson. I'm the chairwoman of the Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors. And I think some of you might be new. So what I'll do is I'll frame up what are the chats. I'll provide some context and then we'll learn and hear about our panelists and jump right into our questions. So what are chats with the chairwoman? Well, because of the pandemic, I wanted to make sure that we could continue to be engaged and converse even virtually. So it's a virtual and informal conversation around race and race-related topics. It's meant to create a safe space for people to have honest dialogue and to discuss very important issues on race and racism. It's an opportunity for us to learn from one another, to support each other and just lean on each other as we're going through all these things. It's meant to provide some valuable insight to the people who are in your community and the people who you interact with every day. And it's also an opportunity to have engaging and interesting conversations and of course find a little bit of joy within these crazy times. This is a moderated panel, so I'm your moderator. I love these topics, but this is about the panelists, so I won't be talking about myself, but to learn more about me, my experiences, the work that I'm doing on race and racism, please follow my Chairwoman page on Facebook. And then also that'll keep you in tune of different events that are happening throughout Milwaukee County. I'll start with short context, as I stated. Then we'll go into Q&A. So I'll ask questions of the panel. They are prepared questions. However, if there's something that's burning, you absolutely have to ask it. Just drop it in our Facebook chat box and we'll make sure to get that uplifted for you. And then finally, please share the stream. Again, like it, love it, comment on it. That's how people are going to see it. So now, why are we doing this? Why Black resiliency and joy? Well, with Milwaukee slated to celebrate its 50th annual Juneteenth Day celebration, I thought it was very fitting that we get together these activists, these thought leaders, to discuss, things that they're doing to advance racial equity, to share Black stories, and to promote jubilation and connectivity within their own communities. What we do know is that positive and uplifting stories of Black activism, resiliency, and joy are often overlooked by the media. And what we instead have is this ecosphere of Black conflict, of Black trauma, of Black strife. But not today. We want to talk about joy. We want to talk about action. We want to talk about resiliency. So I'm so excited to introduce this panel of folks who are doing incredible work in their own respective fields and sectors. And I'm going to jump right into it. So I'm so honored to have this first person joining us. She is a Milwaukee native, but not living in Milwaukee right now because she's doing incredible work all across the nation. And her name is Tracey Quarter. Tracey Quarter is a Milwaukee native who currently serves as the Deputy Campaign Director at Action Center on Race and the Economy in Oakland, California. Tracey has held numerous positions in politics and organizing over her career. In 2012, Tracey served as the Wisconsin African American Vote Director for the Obama re-election campaign. She has worked as the Deputy Field Director for Colorado Victory during the 2014 midterm elections. In 2017, she became the Director of Federal Action and Racial Justice at the Center for Popular Democracy, which allowed her to advance direct action as a tactic to advocate for progressive legislation on housing, immigration, voting rights, climate, and policing. Her work serving on the advisory board of Be a Hero, the steering committee of Black Women For, and acting as a trainer for the Bird Dog Nation proves that Tracey Quarter is a woman of and for the people. Tracey, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be asked. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Secondly, and this bio does this man no justice. He really is a pillar of our community. I think most of you know this name, and that's Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson has been a much sought after speaker, researcher, writer, and consultant to the media on race relations for over a decade, both regionally and nationally. His work helps institutions and individuals understand how our country's racial hierarchy developed historically, its impacts on our lives today, and how we can realize America's promise for all citizens. To do this, Reggie shares seldom told stories and facts about the experiences of African Americans and other peoples of color, past and present. Reggie is a co-founder and lead trainer consultant for Nurturing Diversity Partners, a consulting firm that fosters diversity, inclusion, and equity within institutions and communities. He writes and provides background on current racial issues to regional, national, and international media. He has served as lead griot at our American Black Holocaust Museum. He has taught sociology as an adjunct professor. He has molded, coached, and inspired countless children in our community and is a true pillar, again, of our community. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Jackson.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you and this esteemed panel. I'm just in awe of being in the space with you all tonight.
Well, I'm excited to hear everything you have to say today. Tia Richardson. Tia Richardson is a full-time community mural artist based in her hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and beyond. In 2003, she graduated with an associate's degree in graphic design from Milwaukee Area Technical College. Since 2007, her work has evolved into collaborative mural efforts that offer many community members from all walks of life a chance to freely express their diverse feelings and perspectives. Tia has completed over 50 murals in partnership with nonprofits, K-12 and post-secondary schools, businesses, and local government. In 2018, she produced a film about one of her projects called Rockford Taking Flight. Tia Richardson has made it her mission to illustrate the power of shared experience and to create a sense of belonging and mutual appreciation of what we each contribute to the collective whole to make it better. Thank you so much for being here, Ms. Tia Richardson.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely.
And last but not least, Mariah Smith, some like my play cousin. I'm so excited to have her here on the panel. As an educator at Milwaukee Parkside School of the Arts, Mariah Smith has assumed the role of a true leader, helping to guide our community's youth down paths of greatness. And although she considers herself relatively new to the activism scene, she hit the ground running. With the untimely and unjust deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, Mariah felt it her calling to join the People's Revolution and help bring a sense of justice and racial equity throughout Milwaukee. The fight for equality and racial justice has become her entire life, and she doesn't intend on stopping until America is the country her people deserve. Thanks so much for being here, Mariah.
Thanks so much for having me, play cousin.
All right, so let's get into it. This is what the people are here for. So we're gonna jump right into the questions. And Reggie, I would love to start with you. So Reggie, you have spent most of your career as a scholar, a historian, and a consultant on race relations. As we look back on the past year's protests for racial justice across the United States and the world, is there anything that stands out to you as being different from past social justice movements that you have seen or studied?
Yeah, I think last year showed us how important Black people in America are to the rest of the world for the first time ever. You know, when we first started to see the protest after George Floyd was murdered, you know, started in Minneapolis and then spread, you know, to other cities and states around the country. I have a good friend who lives out in Salt Lake City, Utah, not too many brothers out there. And he told me, man, they're out here protesting in Salt Lake City. I'm like, there has to be white people because it's not that many Black people out there. And then I heard that there were white people in North Dakota protesting. And eventually you just saw it spread around the world. And, you know, it was very gratifying to see that our stories were that important to so many people around the globe. And I think that that's something that we've never seen before, not in that capacity. And part of it is the fact that we can get information, you know, instantaneously. And it really helped me to kind of believe more strongly that this is going to be different than anything we've ever done before. The momentum that we built with this movement, it's like a freight train. You can't slow it down. You can't stop it. There's nothing that's going to get in the way of us doing this work in the way that we know it needs to be done.
Thank you so much. That was very enlightening. I was actually going to ask, you know, why do you think that is? And it's so true. We're more connected now, more than ever, with social media, Facebook, Twitter. That's amazing. Thanks so much, Reggie. Did anyone want to add anything to that before I ping it to the next person? Is there anything that you see different in this movement as related to past movements?
I mean, I think that was a great answer. I was like, how do we follow that? But I think that it also is that the conditions are just right for this. There are so many things that are happening that brings injustice to the forefront. Like, there's no way to ignore it. So a lot of times, like, Black people have been ringing the alarm. Black people have been the canary in the coal mine for so long, and we've been ignored. But when everybody was sitting at home and seeing all of the injustices through the pandemic, you couldn't ignore. We were all consuming the same videos, the same media, the same ways in which we were able to communicate. And so it really became impossible to ignore. And Black folks have been priming this, like, fight forever. And I think it's important to remember that it didn't spring out of nowhere. There's no way that our demands could be front and center if we just started this. We've been doing this for generations, and that's why it's not stopping.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Tracey. And I'm actually going to stay on you. Speaking of this, in your former role as Director of Federal Action and Racial Justice at the Center for Popular Democracy, you use direct action as a tactic to advocate for progressive legislation on numerous issues. For those who are unfamiliar with the term, can you explain that to us? What is direct action, and what drew you to that type of activism?
Thank you for this question. I would say that to answer the second part first, like, it kind of fell in my lap. And it was just like a natural progression of the work. If you are like me, a geriatric millennial, you will hear, you might have watched like, I'm a Bill on Capitol Hill, like Schoolhouse Rock. And so we've been taught that the way legislation is passed is like you go with a really great idea to your elected official, they will make this decision that is best for the people. And what we're seeing time and time again is that that's not true, that there's big money, there's big donors, there's big corporations that are saying, actually, like what I care about is more important and more in line with what should happen and not what the community cares about. And so the only way that we can actually push is direct action. So I've been like really fortunate to fall in line with so many people who have been doing direct action. You said Bird Dog Nation, and that's like the kind of art and science of putting elected officials, sorry, Chairwoman, on notice and making sure that they are actually making decisions for us. So, you know, I've followed Mitch McConnell around the airport and tried to put him on blast. I have been in people's offices, and for everybody that you see kind of on TV that goes viral, there have been hundreds and thousands of people who are doing these same things around the country. We've shut down corporations. We've done things at Amazon to say that there's no reason that Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and billionaires should be increasing their wealth during a pandemic when people are suffering. And so the idea of direct action is to say, we understand that our decision makers are compromised, that they are not doing what's best for our communities. And so we're going to make them. And we're going to say that the bill on Capitol Hill is going to be something that we are going to force you to pass and not something that you can ignore.
Thank you. So direct action. We know our elected officials and our policymakers are compromised. So we got to force them to do what's right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tracey. I'm going to kick it to Mariah and Tia, and then I want to ask a question for everybody, if you all can join in on that. So Mariah, in your bio for this evening, you expressed that you felt a calling to join the activism fight fairly recently. What would be your advice to other individuals who feel called to take action, but may not know where to start?
So I say just get to it. Simple, just get to it. As far as finding what to do, just go outside. You go to 20th and Burleigh or go to 24th and North, look outside and you'll see work to be done. And if you don't know how to start it, a lot of times there are organizations that are already doing the work. So to be honest with you, so to start, like I said, I felt a calling. Prior years, honestly, I wasn't fighting. I didn't exactly feel the pull to fight. So when that pull comes, understand, just like Mr. Jackson said, things can just be streamlined, just easy. You can get access to anything just tap a button. You have access to it. So you can type in social justice or racism against Black people on Facebook and understand that hundreds of groups will pop up. It might be some hating groups. You know, you might have to sift through them, but it's always work to be done, and it's always groups. There's always organizations. There's even just, you know, nonprofit. It's always somebody that's doing this work. And how about if you can't find it, you create it. It's too much work to be done for us to sit back idle. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for this last year because you're not woke until you woke. And I truly feel that way. You don't, and you can't go back to sleep. That's the thing about it. When you wake up, you can't go back to sleep until the work is done. So just get to it. Come to the People's Revolution. The People's Revolution got some work for you. So that's just get to it.
Awesome. And Mariah, while you mentioned it, can you just tell us briefly a little bit about the People's Revolution and what are they working on right now?
So right now we're working on a bill, a police reform bill in Madison that they're working on. So like the direct action, we went in there to the meeting and we held them accountable. We have a thing where we say, shut it down, and we'll shut it down. We shutting this building down. We're not, you guys aren't saying what we're like, okay, this meeting is over. It's no even point in having this meeting. If you guys can't, if you're gonna gaslight us, it's no point. So that's something that we're doing. We're working with just different families, Jay Anderson. Right now, the John Doe case, I'm trying to bring light to that. We're doing a lot of lit drops, the Breonna Taylor bill, the George Floyd bill. Lit drops these are things we're not exactly marching, but we're going door to door and we're leaving literature. It's something weird about a piece. My brother Caleb always says something weird about a white piece of paper with typing on it that's just put on your door. Like you have to read it. And that's what we've been doing, just to spread the word. So a lot of just different avenues that we're taking, but that is the main fight that we're in right now, police reform bill in Madison.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Mariah. And just for those, just to kind of paraphrase, for those looking to get involved in action, go outside. She said there's work to be done. There are lots of organizations doing the work. So what is that issue you care about? Type that in, sift through some of those groups and get engaged. And finally, if you can't find it, you create it. But there's definitely work to be done. Mariah, thank you so much for doing it with the People's Revolution. Tia, you're so patient. Thank you. When people think of social justice activism, I'm sure the first things that come to mind are those protests and petitions. However, you have taken a more holistic approach with the creation of community murals. Can you please elaborate on what caused you to take action in such an artistic way?
Okay, got to mute. So, right, so that's where I come from. I come from those activist spaces and spent a lot of time in those spaces, and where, you know, they were using art to support protests, banners, signs, and art was used as a space of grievance. And I saw that a lot with art. And I'm a visual artist, so that's been my whole life. And there were ways where walls were put up between groups, and I felt a sense of isolation sometimes in those spaces, of separating ourselves from the whole. And I wanted to move in a different direction and create a way for art to bring people together, a space of sharing, like, you know, maybe we should focus on what bonds us as a community. So I've had experience with different groups that use restorative justice, emotional processing techniques, and other forms of healing that I wanted to include in the art in some way. So I was looking for ways to include different kinds of people, have them participate, be part of it, bring those two worlds together that for a long time in my life were just didn't interact. So I wanted to create a sense of sharing together. And I've had to experiment with what that looks like and what works and what doesn't over the years. So I want better for our community. We all want better in some way. And we're all parts connected to a greater whole. So what we have in common as human beings is a need to belong, to be heard, and contribute in a meaningful way to something bigger than ourselves. So community art offers people a chance to share their perspectives, be included, feel heard, as part of something bigger than ourselves. And it's just like in society where the system can't reflect the parts that make up it if those same parts don't have the chance to share and participate. So my approach is social, it's psychological, it's cultural, and this is just one way that I can do something from who I am as a person and as an artist with what I know how to do.
Thank you, Tia. And if I could follow up on that, I am by no means an artist, but I do like to be creative, and I do find fulfillment in that. You mentioned a little bit about the different facets that art provides for the community. Can you just dig a little bit deeper for me? Like how does art bring people together, and maybe like, you know, times when you're doing murals, like what have you witnessed or what have you seen?
Well, it's in my films. It's really hard to describe. So I create films about my different projects that if you go to my website, you can see videos of people's reactions. And it's not easy. It's not easy to put into words. It's an experience. So one of the things I've learned is just how much we like to experience things as people. We're very social. And it's making it real that way. There's not a whole lot. I was actually going to answer a lot of that in the next question, not to.
So I'll wait then. I don't mean. So we'll come back to you. We'll come back. Don't worry.
Yeah, we can get to that.
Yes, and what we're doing too, so we're going to plug in any relevant information links. You're going to have an opportunity to plug your website, Cosmic Butterfly, but we'll go ahead and plug that in so folks can go and start to, you know, look at some of those videos. Thanks, Tia. So I just want to open it up for the space. This is, again, an opportunity to, you know, connect with people across the county and, you know, really engage and educate our allies. And so a question I have for everyone, or if you feel free to answer this, too often as Black individuals, we are seen as the gatekeepers for social justice activism, so much so that we find ourselves bombarded by our non-BIPOC colleagues and friends with questions on how they can best serve our community in the fight. Do you have some ways that you navigate these inquiries to protect your mental health or to avoid taking on all the work or feeling overworked? Tracey, I see you nodding your head. Reggie, you nodding your head. Yes.
I just say no. I say no, and I direct them to like white folks who are doing the work. There are people who offer themselves out as like, you know, like allies, and I say, go talk to that person, because I think that like fixing racism is a white issue and healing from racism is our issue. And so I actually don't have time to like educate white people all day because I'm trying to heal and I'm trying to help my community heal. So for me, it is just a matter of saying no.
Thank you. And no is a complete sentence, y'all. Anyone else want to join in on that one?
I think I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. I think that, listen, there's a lot of white people that want to help, that want to be advocates. I wrote an article for my column last year that said, it's great that you're woke, but are you going to get out of the bed and do something? And I think a lot of times white people don't know what to do. They think they do, right? And they're looking for advice from us. And after a while, you kind of get tired of giving them advice. But to me, I think that the only way they're going to figure it out is with our help. They've never had to do anything like that. They've never had to challenge their nation and the myths about their nation, the lies that they've never had to challenge that before, right? So they're in a space where they have a very specific perception of their country that guides how they do what they do. And it's based on decades of being lied to their entire lives, right? So if we're not in that space to kind of at least give them the basic foundational understanding of what you need to see your country as, then they're not going to know what to do after that. So I travel around the state of Wisconsin. I've done work in 50 different communities in Wisconsin. I travel around the country. I've done work in over 20 different states. And what I try to do is invest some time and effort. And kind of, it's like they're on a bike with training wheels, right? And you know how it is. You got the kid on the bike with the training wheels and you give them that gentle little push and then they figure it out themselves. That's how kind of I see myself. I'm giving them that gentle little push, but then they got to do the rest of the work, because there's only so much we can do before we just get burned out and tired and just frustrated from, you know, ridiculous questions that people ask us. But I think that they're never going to figure it out unless they use the resources, which is our lived experiences. People of color, we can tell them all about what we've endured during our lives and let them understand the challenges we have so that they can see like, man, I didn't realize it was that bad for you. So unless we give them that information, And they can read all of the books they want to do and do all of the book clubs they want to do, but they need to talk to the BIPOC people. If they don't have those conversations and get to know, like, listen, one of the first things I noticed about Mariah was, man, that energy, right? You got to be in a space where you see that energy, you feel that energy, because, you know, you can watch videos of some, you know, academics sitting in a room and very properly talking about these issues. That's boring, right? You need somebody that's got that energy that's going to fire you up. And I think they can't get that without us being in the space, at least at the beginning, to start them on the process. And then, like Tracey said, the rest is up to them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Reggie. And I want to keep you. Yeah, go ahead, Tracey. Go ahead.
I do want to say, because I want people who are watching to know that we are not saying two different things. Like, I think if Reggie's like job and charge is to like do that education for white people, like, you absolutely should. I'm just like really clear that that's not my job or charge. Right. And I think that, like, you know, let's talk about Mariah, like, energy, absolutely, and make sure that she gets paid when she's in that room, because this is like re-traumatizing. This is having to relive things. This is like bringing up stuff that we still need to heal from. So like, we are educating people on things that we still need to heal from. And so it's really important to me that like we are compensated for that, and that we are respected for that. And that, you know, that once we do that education piece, like, I'm not saying I don't ever educate white people, but like the folks that I do educate and like invest in, I expect them to go now talk to other white people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tracey. I think you both expounded on that beautifully, and hopefully that was insightful for our audience. You know, again, you know, Black folks are not a monolith. We all show up in different ways. And I think the best thing you can do is respect our trauma and where we're coming from. And, you know, remind yourselves that racism can be fixed if you fix it. Now, Reggie, so I want to come back to you, kind of along these lines, but, you know, I want to dig a little bit on the other side of it. So you've spoken in front of hundreds in audiences over the years, giving presentations. You're talking about institutional racism. You're talking about segregation here in Milwaukee and across the nation. And you're giving these presentations to white audiences, like you said. Are there obstacles that you found yourself facing when explaining these topics to people who aren't familiar, or maybe even are skeptical, even after you explain to them what systemic racism is?
Yeah, absolutely. The greatest obstacle by far is miseducation. You know, we don't talk about the ugly parts of American history. We don't teach it. And, you know, people are fighting against, you know, us talking about racism in schools. It's like, listen, you folks that are trying to ban the talking about racism in schools, you're trying to ban something that doesn't exist already anyway. You know, when has America ever honestly talked about racism in schools? And now all of a sudden that there is even some very brief conversations about it, all of a sudden people are panicking. But I think that all of us as Americans have been cheated in our history classes. I'm a former teacher, and I can tell you our history books are terrible, because most countries teach history the same way. They teach it so that their citizens can be patriots and lovers of their country. So they talk about all of the wonderful stuff and they leave all the ugly, nasty parts out. And that's the part that we need to understand in order to get where we are as a nation, and why these issues are constantly in our frame of reference as people of color. It's like Tracey said, listen, we didn't just jump on this bandwagon and start talking about this stuff. We've been doing it for generations. We started talking about this even before 1619. We were talking about this in the 1500s when the first slaving ships came to West Africa. We were already having these conversations, and we've been shouting from rooftops to Americans since we got here that, listen, you talk about the founding fathers and the ideals of the country, freedom, justice, liberty, all of that stuff. We've been telling you, listen, those are wonderful ideas, but you're not applying it equally to everybody. You're certainly not applying it to us. You're writing the Constitution. You're writing the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson is writing the Declaration of Independence when he owns 200 Black people. You're writing the Constitution, talking about freedom, justice, liberty, and there are almost 700,000 Africans in shackles in this country. So they don't know that. They don't know the ugly parts of American history. They don't know our lived experiences. And so when they begin to hear those things, like for instance, when I talk about segregation, and most people think, well, you know, people self-segregate. They want to live where people look like them. And I'm like, that's a lie. The only people who've ever wanted to live in those conditions in this country are white people. And they've had the power, the institutional power, to create all white spaces, right? And keep other people out intentionally. So when they learn these things, they understand, like, okay, We kept Black people from becoming homeowners, building generational wealth by building equity in home ownership for decades. That's why the Black home ownership rate is 44% nationally, and it's over 70% for whites. Here in Milwaukee, 27% of Blacks are homeowners, and over 70% of whites are homeowners. That's not accidental. So when they learn the intentionality behind these things, when they learn that the federal government basically told white people that if you want us to help you get a loan for a house, you have to put a racial restrictive covenant in that says only white people can live in this neighborhood. When they learn those things, they're shocked. And then they say, Reggie, you know what? Now I get it. Now I understand. I understand that banks have discriminated against Blacks. I understand that the GI Bill didn't work for Black GIs who came back and fighting in World War II. And when they learn those things, that's the first step they need to move on to the next process, is just saying, okay, we need to challenge what we're teaching in schools. We need to challenge the assumptions we make about the Black community. We need to change the way we see the world around us, because we've been lied to our entire lives. And that's the greatest challenge. People simply do not know. And I always say this, a good friend of mine says that she first heard me talk about these topics, and she said, listen, once you hear it, you can't unlearn it. It's in your brain, and you can't erase it. And that's what I try to do. I try to give people enough of American history that they can really clearly articulate and understand how we got to where we are and why the challenges we have today exist. They didn't happen by accident. These things are very purposeful. And there are some people in this country today that, listen, man, they sit back, fat, dumb, and happy with the status quo, and they don't want to change anything. And that's why they're pushing back against the work that all of us are doing. They don't want people to know the truth. And ultimately, this is the greatest challenge. I say to white people, you have white people in your community who don't want you to learn, who don't want you to be advocates, who don't want you to be anti-racist. You have to fight back against that. You can't be a slouch. You can't be nervous. You can't be scared. You have to have the courage, because ultimately, like Tracey said, racism is a white people problem. White people have to fix racism. We can't fix it. We can kind of articulate, like she said, how it impacts us and the traumatic impact it has on us. But white people are the only ones that can fix it in America. I mean, they still run America. We're here, but we're not running anything other than, a handful of things that we own. But for the most part, they have to learn to get past the lies they've been told in history class.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I want to kick it to Mariah, back to Mariah, just to expand more on the idea of activism manifesting in more ways than one. The People's Revolution. So we heard about them. They've been marching now for 384 days and counting. Can you just tell us a little bit more about how this organization has used technology specifically and social media to advance their mission? And do you feel that social justice internet warriorship will be the new way forward for Black activism?
As far as us getting started, we're out in the streets, and just like you saw the movement in Minneapolis, you saw the movement, like Reggie said, in Utah, you saw the movement in all these other cities. It was through social media. It's through a live. So for some reason, most people in America, we're sheep. We see something, we don't like something until somebody else likes it. So now we see everybody uprising. Now everybody wants to uprise. Now everybody wants to come out and march. Now, and it's good. It's good though. So that was what the live would bring. It would bring awareness. It would let people know where we were. It would let people know. It let officers know. You can't just do what you want with me and people not gonna see you, because here go my phone. It's in your face and I'm recording you. So what you gonna do now? It's social media has brought a level of, I said, accountability, awareness, where we're fighting against police brutality. At that point, it lets them know, hey, we see you. The world sees you at this point. And we know how things can go viral. Officers, just like we know officers know. So that was on that side. And I mean, just as far as bringing awareness, it was the lives. And we have a page, a People's Revolution page. It has about 6.2 thousand followers. And like I say, sometimes we do go out door to door, but even when people can't come out door to door, like through our winter months, it was a lot of lit drops. And we would have about 10, 15 people out there. It's cold. Like, people don't like the cold, but a lot of people were able to participate in the action by us putting it online. So we're telling you to, like with the cops grant, the cops grant, we put all the aldermen's, like Miss Tracey said, we holding y'all accountable. Sorry, Cece. You know, we gotta hold y'all accountable. You know what I'm saying? You got in this spot.
Y'all don't put that on me. Don't be putting that on me.
I'm just saying, you know, she apologized, so I feel like I should apologize too. You know, politics. You know, we put y'all in the same category. You're a great one. You're great. We put you all right here. We gotta hold you accountable. So that cops grant, it wasn't just the people that voted yes, wasn't just the people that voted no. We put it up on all y'all. We put it up to all of your houses to let you know we see you and we're watching the decisions that you make. But people that couldn't come do that, we put it online. So these people were starting to block us because they were getting emailed bombed. Their calls was getting, the phones was blowing up. So social media, what made it where we could reach 6.2 thousand people. And even though people didn't want to come out in the cold, our Facebook was able to spread that. So will this be the future? I don't know. I haven't been here long enough to see, you know, if this is how, but I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm an advocate for change. So if we're trying to get to 4 and we've been doing 1 + 1, we got to change that equation to get to the solution that we want. So we can't keep doing these things the way that we have. So I know we haven't done social media. So this might be the way to go, but I don't know. So I think I summed that question up in the right way. But yeah,
I think you did. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I appreciate that perspective, because I think Mr. Jackson, he spoke earlier to connectivity and how having social media provides more information, more knowledge, and more folks to kind of link and come together. And you guys are using it as a tool for accountability, for a tool of, you know, calling folks out on when they're not working for the community. And I think that matters just as much. So thank you, Mariah, for that.
I would say this is just something that I did see. This is not Wisconsin, but there was an Asian man who shot a little like 6-year-old Black boy. His bike was in his front yard. And the power of social media. This man got out on, I think it was like a $10,000 bond or something like that. The uprise from social media. This man ended up back in jail because they're okay, clearly this isn't right. These people are going wild. So that is the beauty of us being able to just go online and click share. And that's sharing to our entire network. So yeah, I just wanted to share that real quick. Thank you.
No, amazing. Thank you so much. Great example. Tia, I'm going to kick it back to your corner. So in 2017, you partnered with the city of Milwaukee and Safe and Sound. You created a large-scale public mural with the Sherman Park community as a way to heal from the unrest and the tragic police shooting of Seville Smith, which occurred the year prior. So as a final marker of that project, you wrote an essay, and it was called Together We Rise, Painting the Community Mural Sherman Park Rising. In this essay you wrote about, and you stated, after the community was shaken in August 2016 and left to grapple with the aftermath of violence and negative stigma, I had to rethink my approach as the mural's lead artist. Tia, can you share with us some of the obstacles you faced, how you worked to reimagine that project, and then the community's response to that mural?
Yeah, so in the article, I touched on the fact that because of the structural inequities and a lot of the ongoing challenges that the community had identified before I got there, I felt as if those feelings in response to those, like a sense of powerlessness, a sense of hopelessness, were sitting there under the surface. And it was even more raw after the unrest, like a bubble had burst. So I felt as if those feelings were palpable in the environment, the depression, the powerlessness, that hopelessness. And I felt like there needed to be a way to channel those feelings in the art. So I knew I knew people would be feeling a range of emotions. They might be feeling angry on one side, hot, and then on the other side, optimism and cool. And I wanted a way to honor whatever people were feeling, but I was afraid I couldn't do that. I didn't want to accentuate people's pain. So I was afraid people might just want to throw paint at the wall or be disruptive or not participate at all. And this was the first time I was in a situation where people who didn't know each other and where a traumatic event happened in the community and people who didn't know each other were being asked to participate. So that fear and lack of confidence in myself was one of the big barriers that I had to confront. So to reimagine it, that's where I pulled from my background, using art as a way to relieve emotional stress from trauma. And the first step to healing is offering people a chance to acknowledge for themselves what they feel the challenges are. And the second step is thinking of ways, what are some of the choices that they or others can make to help make it better? And then from there, the third step is imagining a future that results from those choices. And what does that look like? What does that feel like? So what surprised me was people were willing to acknowledge painful issues in a constructive way. And I had underestimated that and their willingness to participate. And so it turned out it was that the process itself was extremely effective and helpful in the sense that it offered people that chance to participate, share their perspective, and they were free. There was a freedom for them to do that. And I was hoping people could feel heard and like there was a place for them somewhere in the art, no matter their perspective. So, and it worked. So I kept using that. And the responses, you can see that in the film. It's on my website homepage, which you might put in the chat, or www.cosmic-butterfly.com. The people's reactions to it for me was incredibly moving. Just this sense of togetherness was almost overwhelming. And for me, it was like water being poured over a wound, to watch how happy people were just to participate in painting and all of it. So it was the first experience I had in Milwaukee of people, a group of strangers working together through art in a harmonious way, white and black, young and old. It was remarkable. And so I don't want to give all of it away. If you're interested, I encourage you to watch the film and experience it for yourself.
Thank you so much, Tia. So we have, and we will again drop the link, cosmic-butterfly.com. Please follow that page, and I believe you have a Facebook page as well that is aligned. So please do plug into that and support this artist's work. Before I close it out with a question, I'm going to kick it back to Tracey. Tracey, in an interview with The Forge in May, you said that the answer to how we govern is participatory. Can you tell us what steps we can take both in government and in the community to create a system where more people feel invited and comfortable participating and making their voices heard on issues that affect them?
Yeah, I think to like frame up that question, like the Forge interview was specifically around like abolition. And
Mm.
so the organization I work for, the way my politics are is like, I don't believe that we can actually have like justice and policing. I don't believe that police can actually be reformed, and I don't believe that prisons should exist. And that's a big thing to say because we are socialized to believe that these things should exist. We are socialized to surveil each other. We are socialized to, if someone offends us, that they should be punished and not have like a very restorative process. And so when I say that it has to be participatory, it's because the things that we really want to have a just society are big. We can't actually have abolition without participation of everyone. It means that everyone is throwing in for our community, and it's not like a lot of us are taught, and I know that I was taught this way, like you go to work, you have like your family structure, and that's who you protect, and not to see it as like a whole community structure. And so when we talk about like having a participatory democracy, we're saying that all of these kids are our kids, all of these families are our families, and that is who should be making the decisions. And so one of the ways that is showing up specifically is that I'm part of this coalition called the People's Coalition for Safety and Freedom. And our charge is to repeal the 1994 crime bill and rewrite that legislation through a participatory process through actually holding people's movement assemblies where people can like dream about what the replacement was. The 94 crime bill happened almost 27 years ago and really made us say that the way that we deal with people in our community is to disappear them. We put them in jails, we remove them from our communities, and we say that's no longer our problem. And that was supposed to create some safety. 2021 is here. We see that is not safety. We see that our communities are no more safe now than they were when they signed this bill. And so how do we like dream with people and say, okay, what does safety beyond policing look like? How do we have a pot of money? How do we have a pot of resources and say, this is where it's supposed to go? So that's just like one example of this like federal legislation that we want to write. But it also happens at the local level. You know, you can say to your city council person, there's block grants that come in from the feds. We want to say where that money is coming to. There are groups like Liberate MKE who are saying we actually need to cut the police funding, and where that goes should be participatory. I'm from Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee. Milwaukee is home, but I live in Oakland now. So I shouldn't be saying where money in Milwaukee goes, right? Because in Oakland, it looks different. In Milwaukee, somebody can say safety for us is if somebody comes and gets the snow out right away. That's not the reality everywhere else. And so being able to say that people who live somewhere are the actual experts of what needs to happen in their community and they can create that safety is why we have to make it participatory.
Thank you so much, Tracey, and very timely, as I know the city and county, the state right now is in its budget process, and the city and county coming up this fall. So thank you. I think that's very timely for our listeners. I want to give each of you a moment to share or uplift any pages, any work, so we got Tia, we got Cosmic Dash Butterfly. Is there anything else you want to uplift? Reggie, if you could tell us a little bit about your podcast. Tracey, you're a part of so much work. Mariah, yourself. So I want to give each of you a moment to just share with us how we can follow you, how we can stay in touch, and then we'll close out with our final question. And I'll start with Tia.
Yeah, mine is just Cosmic, COSMIC -butterfly.com. My social media is on there. But if you really want a more in-depth look, my website is the place to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Mariah.
Like I said, the People's Revolution, that is our Facebook page. And then we do have the People's Revolution Milwaukee. The People's Revolution, our Facebook page that page is kind of just, people post their things. Sometimes they, getting their feelings off, or they want to make a joke about Trump, something like that. So that page, that's there. But if you're just looking for straight action, what are they doing today? Where will they be? You can find it on that page in our announcement section, but you can also join the People's Revolution Milwaukee on there as well. Or you can friend me. My name's Rye Smith. If you have any questions, how to get involved or things like that. I can help or anything that I don't know, I can definitely, you know, put anybody into contact with somebody that, because I just met some great people today. So there we go.
Excellent. Yes. Thank you so much, Mariah. Tracey, anything you want to share with us?
Sure. So ACRE put out a report on 21st century policing, which looks at the ways that tech companies are profiting off of surveillance. And so you can look at that website. It's the number 21centurypolicing.com. You can get the reports. You can see kind of the big kickoff we had with Congresswoman Cori Bush. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter, I tweet a lot about defunding the police. And it's at TRACEY, Tracey E Quarter CORDER.
Thank you. That Twitter be lit too. Y'all follow her on Twitter. And finally, Reggie, if you could talk to us about your podcast and how we can find it.
So I think the podcast you're referring to is a podcast I did with 88.9 radio station called By Every Measure, and it was a look at systemic racism. There are 6 episodes that talk in a variety of different ways about different elements of what systemic racism looks like in the country. But you can also find out about the work that I do through my company, Nurturing Diversity Partners. Our website is nurturingdiversity.us. You can go there, and I write a column for the Milwaukee Independent, an online magazine. So you can basically go to milwaukeeindependent.com, and I'm all over the place. I wrote 77 articles last year, even though I was only supposed to write 24. I just lost my mind and wrote 77. And so it's a lot of stuff that I do in the community and other spaces. I would hope that if people want to know more kind of about the history that we talk about, another good place they can go is America's Black Holocaust Museum's virtual museum online, and that's abhmuseum.org. 3,000 pages of exhibit material there about the history that people need to know in order to have these conversations. So those are the spaces that I recommend people go to: Milwaukee Independent, abhmuseum.org, and then nurturingdiversity.us, and also the podcast that actually won, by the way, the Gold Award from the Milwaukee Press Club for Best Podcast. So in this last award cycle. So a lot of great feedback we've gotten about the podcast.
Thank you. That's amazing. And we are dropping all of that in the Facebook chat. So folks, make sure to save those links and check them out. So we're like right at the end of our time. And I want to close us out with one last like fun question. So Juneteenth Day is this Saturday. It's June 19th. Milwaukee actually has one of the nation's longest running Juneteenth celebrations. It started in 1971. It's something I went to every year growing up on 12th and Burleigh in 53206. And so this makes this the 50th anniversary of Juneteenth celebration here. Last year, the Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors, we sponsored legislation. We made it a Milwaukee County holiday. It's a major holiday now for Milwaukee County employees. And we're having this conversation, as you know, nationally. But with Juneteenth Day being a day of remembrance and celebration, steeped in Black activism, I want to hear from some of you. You're all from Milwaukee. Do you have any, unique memories or experiences about past Juneteenth celebrations, something that you hold dearly, or just some lasting words you want to leave with the listening audience today? And I'll start with Tracey.
Yeah, I mean, I feel so blessed and lucky to be from Milwaukee and know what Juneteenth was. Like, it was wild to me that I would talk to people who would be like, "Oh, we don't have a celebration." I just thought that was like the norm. And so I have so many memories, but one of my favorite ones was working for Obama and like crowd canvassing Juneteenth. Everybody was so excited. People were educating me. It was just such a happy and joyful space. And just full of beautiful Black people who were excited to see me, and I was excited to see them. And that's what I love so much about Juneteenth.
Thank you, Tracey. How about you, Tia?
Yeah, I was trying to remember a specific memory, and I can't recall one other than going to the parade, but that I was involved when I was growing up. The Black History celebrations and all those were like the one time of the year when I would do a piece of art, and I would show my art. So it was I was probably involved in something like that. I just can't remember a specific, because like Tracey was saying, there were so many holidays in Milwaukee that were kind of like celebrated that I took for granted growing up. But I definitely remember it as like a very rich part of my experience in Milwaukee from an art standpoint, because I would have been doing some art around it.
Thank you. How about you, Mariah?
So my family actually went to daycare down at Mount Zion, which is on 2nd and Garfield. It's where I'm at. So they would always take us down there, and it was always just like, you see the beautiful dresses, you see the dashiki, you see just all these beautiful colors, and at that time didn't really understand. I'm just like, celebrating Black, what, why? Okay, cool. So growing up, it was always beautiful though. It was always a good time. But now that I'm older, understanding why we were celebrating and why it's such it's just full of jubilee. It's when you go in that area, it's a feeling that you really can't explain. So last year, I think I would say last year was kind of my favorite. And again, people are probably like, what? It's COVID, it was shut down. People's Revolution did their own Juneteenth celebration where we just, usually, vendors pay. All the vendors that came, we said, come free. We're not trying to raise no money because it is a hard time. But it was so much fun, so much fun. So last year was probably my favorite because it was just like, whoa, this is me. This is us. This is, hey, Black and I'm proud. So it was a feeling of just like that. I felt it before, but didn't understand it. And now it's like, oh, you were feeling the proudness of being Black. It was being suppressed, by who you were around, but now you feel the proudness and it's out. So it was, Juneteenth has just always been, always through my life. And now it's
come full circle.
Yes, come full circle.
I love it. Thanks, Mariah.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, Mr. Reggie Jackson.
I don't have any specific memories of Juneteenth that stand out, but I'm like Mariah. It's like it makes you feel so good to be there, right? Like we hear so much negative stuff about our community in Milwaukee, and then you go to Juneteenth, it's like, man, this is a beautiful thing to see Black people out here enjoying each other. I tell people I don't go to Juneteenth to celebrate the holiday Juneteenth. You know what I go to celebrate? I go to celebrate the celebration of Black people doing positive things together, having a good time, eating good food, helping Black vendors, just enjoying each other, running into people you haven't seen since high school, running into people that used to be your neighbors when you lived on 14th and Burleigh, stuff like that. I grew up on 14th and Burleigh, so we right in the heart of 53206. And I remember when it was a great place to live. And every time I go to Juneteenth, I always feel so good when I leave because I'm like, man, this is an affirmation of what we've been telling people about our community, that all the negative stuff you hear on the news, that's not us. That's not representing our community. Juneteenth is a representation of what our community is because it's much more positive stuff going on than there is negative. And it reminds me of what Tia said about bringing people together, right? That's what Juneteenth does. It brings people together in a way that nothing else in Milwaukee does. And it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside every time I'm there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Reggie, Tia, I see your hand up. You wanted to add?
Yeah, I wanted to say the reason I can't remember a specific incident is because Juneteenth was like that. It was like I don't want to say any other festival, but it was such a natural thing that, and honestly, for like Mariah, I didn't know really the history of Juneteenth for years, even though I would go, so I can admit that, but but it was that. It was a very, very vibrant thing to, participate in.
And thank you all so much for those incredible answers. I think you touched on all the different pieces of what makes Juneteenth. And I'm personally looking forward to it on Saturday. So I just want to, honor people's time and thank you all. Thank you to my panelists. Oh my goodness. Thank you to each and every one of you who listened in. And, just continue to be a part of these conversations and to be a part of this intentional work. If you want to learn more, if you like this conversation, go to my Chairwoman page on Facebook. It's Chairwoman Marcelia Nicholson. It's very easy to find. And then you'll see some of the past chats that we talked about. And I do want to put in a plug. The Board of Supervisors will be at the Juneteenth Festival, so come by and see our booth. And again, just thank you to my panelists. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Thank you, Tracey. Thank you, Tia. Thank you, Mariah. Tracey, we won't see you on Saturday, but maybe I'll see you soon, and I'll see the rest of you all on Saturday. So thank you so much, and be safe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a good night, everybody.